Folks, this is Book Talk with Corbin. I'm your host. We have a returning guest with us, a good friend of the show, Brother Matt Singleton. He's been with us
Hey,
before. Guys, I want you to go to the website, booktalkwithcorbin.com, and you should find at least 2, 3 other interviews we've done with him. Really good interviews, and I want you guys to check them out. And not only to check them out, but I'd like for you to like them, hit like. It's very important that you hit the like, and then 2, that you share it with other people. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We're on YouTube, youtube.com, Book Talk with Corbin. Today, folks, again, I'm going to take the show to a slightly different direction than what I've done in the past. I usually do politics and culture, but in every so often, though, I got to sort of bring it down to talking about I guess you might say real life issues, not real life issues, but talking about spiritual issues, spiritual questions from a biblical perspective. And my go-to guy for that is Brother Matt. You know, if there's something that's really pressing on my mind, something I really think my listeners need to hear and grapple with, I go to Brother Matt. Brother Matt, I appreciate your time today.
thank you, brother.
Folks, today we're talking about covenant. What is a covenant? What's a marriage covenant? What's a covenant wife? What's a covenant husband? And to the Christian men, how do you find a covenant wife? I think I don't know if you agree with this or that, Brother Matt, but I for myself, I've done a lot of quote unquote dating, and after a few years you break up, and sometimes it's who cares type breakup. Other times it's very painful because you want to maintain a friendship with the woman at least, and and the woman, they sometimes get upset because like, oh, I invested all this time and effort into you, and then of course there's the thing a lot of Christians don't want to openly talk about, but many times when we're doing that dating thing, we're engaged in fornication, knowing it's a sin. I mean, can take you to the scriptures and show you this is a sin. And yet we still do it with justification that, well, we'll get married later and it will be okay. And sometimes it's flat out unspoken. Well, I want to test everything out to make sure it's okay before we get married. Brother, let's go ahead and get started. What is a covenant, brother? Go ahead.
So basically, the original institution and the original relationship was Adam and Eve, man and wife. And essentially, it says that, as a man leaves his father and mother and he cleaves to his wife, the two become one flesh. And so there is a bonding process there. When we talk about a covenant is like a contract. Okay. You have a very strong sealed agreement. The difference is that in a contract, if the other party doesn't live up to your expectations, then you can get out of the contract. If they break the contract, then you're out. Well, when it comes to a covenant, you should be doing everything that you are promised to do, regardless of how they behave. And, there are some exceptions. If you have to deal with someone cheating on you in adultery, that is allowed for a divorce to happen. If you have someone who is an unbeliever and they simply leave you, then that is, you have mercy, as far as dealing with that. When we talk about divorce really is, in the ancient language, it's about like leaving their house. Okay. And I think when we talk about people in the covenant, I want to go, to some basics, and I'll start with the guys first. I know that we're going to be dealing with girls a lot here, but we have to, if the guy's the head of the household, then he's the first of the responsibility. So a man has, we'll call it 3 P's. Okay. The 3 P's that I'm going to talk topically here. There are 3 P's that you want to live up to as far as virtues. You need to be the provider, the protector, and the priest. Now, the provider, I will say this: if any normal guy, regardless of religion, one is lonely and he needs a woman, I say this: buy a car, buy a house, and buy a bed. Now, I'm not guaranteeing you'll be the woman of your dreams, but there's going to be some woman who will, want to join you at some point, because they need a provider. In fact, I'll even say this: the liberated feminist woman replaces business or the government with this provider figure. So this is always a need. But yeah, you have to do that. You have to be responsible. You have to be the provider. When men are not the provider, they lose power. And then all of a sudden they realize, well, hold on, there's nothing going on here, And so if you're a leader, then, there has to be something behind that. So they have to be a provider. They have to be a protector. I mean, there's some of this is kind of basic, you think defend her life or whatever, but also there's just a general need. I know, like my wife, she always says this. She's just like, she doesn't want me to work night shift because she wants me at home because she feels secure. Okay. Women have a natural need of security. Women have a nature, to where they're going to be the nurturers, and, the man is going to be the head of the family. They're going to be the heart of the family. Okay. And so being that, they worry. That's part of their nature. They're always worrying because they want to take care of the kids. They want to make sure everything's fine in the house. Okay. Mm-hmm. So essentially, they need a man that's going to provide security. Okay. Now, if you are a man who is insecure and you are going back crazy or whatever, that's not good. Okay. That's not what a real man is going to act like. So a provider and a protector and a priest. The priest, and we've really forgotten this concept, but we have to be the spiritual leaders. And not only is there a spiritual leader, but I think that when it comes to the wooing of the wife, you have to have a vision for your family and your life, and you have to sell that vision. If the man is not capable of selling the vision of his life, then whether or not it's his fault or her fault, okay? But if she is not sold on that vision, they will not have a happy marriage. If they have a marriage, okay? It really comes down to that. If she looks at him and says, wow, I see what he is and I see where he's going and I'm into that. I think about like Jerry Maguire, okay? She wasn't really impressed with Tom Cruise in many aspects, but she said, I know what he wants to be, And so she sees his vision, and therefore that, that is the chain that locks the love, okay? She has to believe what he's selling, and you have to make sure that your product is good or it doesn't seem to sell very well. So that is the thing. As a man, you have to have that vision and that leadership. And when you do, that will, keep the home fires burning. That's the long run relationship. Okay. Short run relationships don't have that, but the long ones do. Now, we are experiencing, as a culture, a huge tremor and backlash thanks to the feminist movement. Okay. This generation of younger women are not taught, and you just watch the commercials. You'll see what they're being brainwashed with. Okay. You don't need the man. How many hit songs are I don't need the man since he be gone, blah, blah, blah. Okay. They're like, it's all about you and your vision is this, and you need to live your life, with this great expectation of become an industry leader, become all these things. Okay. They don't tell you become a mother. It is counterintuitive. So the girls are brainwashed into that direction. They might be good girls who reject it, but they are all being pushed into that direction. Some of that is the fault of the previous generation of men, because we followed the Hugh Hefner Playboy philosophy. Okay. Not us individually, but, our culture went into that and said, hey, why do I need to be burdened by marriage and family? Okay. So now, since, all this generation of women has been brokenhearted, now it's kind of like a vengeance type of deal where, we're going to be the players. We're going to go out there and do all this stuff. That's not to say that like there aren't women in our culture that got their head on straight. There are plenty of those, but they're also kind of, it's few and far between from what it used to be. And, I've seen guys, I know guys who right now they are looking for wives overseas, some in Europe, but now it's kind of being more in Asia because there's a lot of conservative Christian women in Southeast Asia. And so I know several fellows who've, got girlfriends or got wives or whatever overseas. That's their answer. Sometimes they might pick a older generation, like an older woman who has her act together, all that kind of stuff. But this is definitely a legitimate problem. I don't want to make any judgment. I mean, as guys, we're going to see every bad woman out there. Girls are going to see every bad guy out there, but basically that's kind of the situation. Now, let's see here. Going back to some of these issues, a man needs love, but he also, more importantly, he needs respect. I remember I was dating a girl many years ago, and for me, it was like, well, she's not judging me, so I don't judge her. I'm not worried about it. And my sister-in-law said, Matt, when are you going to find a woman that respects you? And that just, that really freaked me out. I was like, wow. I just didn't think in those terms. I mean, she wasn't like, this girlfriend wasn't really bad to me or anything, but, she wouldn't go to church or anything like that. And she just said that. She's like, we're going to find a woman that respects you. And a lot of times we want an idol. The pagan man wants to make romance a virtue and then the woman the idol. Okay. And that does not work. That's not true love. That is just fantasy. Okay. So you don't need a woman who's a fantasy. You need the woman who's real for your real life. And that woman is going to be somebody who respects you, who loves you. They might not always do it with a smile because sometimes you're not worth smiling at. We've got our issues too, right? But basically, I'll be honest with you. I knew that my wife right now was going to be my wife when she helped me work a grill for about 3 weeks. My parents owned the grill. They went to Europe for some exchange students that they knew. And during that time, we had to work every day. And she would work. She'd get tips, but otherwise she was working for free, helping me out. And I just knew. I was like, this is a woman that has integrity. If I sneak up on her, okay, I can pop into the room, sneak up on her. She'll be shocked, and she'll have like Charles Stanley playing on her tablet, okay, or she'll be doing a devotion or praying, okay. This is a godly woman, indoors and outdoors and everything like that. And so when I find that, I find something that lasts. When we think of sex, now let me give you this theory. I believe that sex is a physical manifestation of spirituality. Okay.
Okay.
And when we talk about sexual sin in Corinthians, it says that this sin is special because it's a sin against your own body. As you are the man has his own heritage, and you are playing games with your heritage when you deal with sex. If you want to fornicate and basically procreate because you fornicated, then you are saying, I'm going to create a baby who does not get properly raised. That's what you're doing. You're playing the hand of God. And, sex has to be something that is controlled. And I think that, I did, unfortunately, I had a early marriage to another woman, and she was much younger, and basically, and I'm really want to be careful here because, bygones be bygones, and, I'm happy, hope she has a happy life. But essentially, she was not into the our relationship with all the best hopes and dreams and all that kind of stuff. And since that, she wanted to have, the sexual romance and stuff. She liked the fact that like she could get away from her family and then kind of, get her bills paid. And so, I was providing all those things, and it was great while it lasted. And essentially, when it comes to sexuality and stuff like that, we have to remember that when you engage not only in sex, but just close, you know what I'm saying? When you start just playing around and all that kind of stuff, you start a process of bonding. Okay. And when you bond with that person, there's all sorts of neurological things that scientists have found that start to come together. Well, guess what? If you bond with them and then you leave them, what happens? Then just like, fabric, it rips and it tears. And so when you get in a lot of these relationships, you have rips and tears, little ones and big ones. Okay. When my first wife left me, it completely, utterly devastated me. And one thing that you have to remember, if you have been through a divorce, you have been traumatized psychologically. You actually do need to have counseling. You are wounded. Your mind is not going to be right for a couple months, maybe even a year or two. Okay. So a lot of people, and I've seen some guys, and their wife leaves them or whatever, and they're just a little off kilter for a little while. I've also seen people who really fornicated and kind of got the triple digit, they're with 100 people or whatever. And usually there's some real mental damage. I mean, like some of these people I know, they're, the one guy I met, he was with 500 ladies at some point in his life, and he had to have a legal guardian. Okay. I mean, it's just like, it's not there because, we talk about love, hurt, and heartbreak and stuff like that, but you don't realize that some of the stuff is real and dangerous, and so we have to be careful. And so the first thing a guy needs to do is he needs to pick a woman who respects him, who loves him. And the both of you need to wait for marriage, because if they can't control their urges, waiting for marriage, then how are they going to, be in marriage, 10, 20 years down the road? And, there's all sorts of opportunity, and it's not really opportunity, but, in the mind of the fleshly man, there's all sorts of opportunity out there. Is there a guy that's going to whisk your woman away? Is there a girl that's going to whisk you away? You have to have this control. And that's why we have to seek the Lord. We have to have a born again relationship with Christ. And not just the fact that we got saved, but also we need to be filled with the Spirit. We need to be into spiritual things, church, the Bible, prayer, to control these things and keep life going. You have to maintain those disciplines. Sexual discipline, just like you need to, bathe, you need to, brush your teeth, you need to keep a healthy diet. This is part of health. And so part of sexual health is to keep that in the bonds of marriage, and also not to keep that as the highest of priorities. If you get the rest of your life, and I think women by nature are easier to understand this, but if you get the rest of your life together, then your sex life will be better. Okay. You control those things. And when all those things get together, first of all, the woman's going to love you. If you're a guy who's straight, who provides for her, protects her, sells her that vision with your priesthood, at that point, then she's ready for you. And unfortunately, we live in this convenient age where we say, hey, if it's pleasure, it's better. Do the pleasure first and worry about everything later. And that's just a foolish way.
Are we as Christians dating properly? Does that make any sense? A lot of times when I'm, several times I've dated a woman, it seems like the dating process, initially it's about attraction, pleasure, but after a while they're like, well, I'm trying to see if you meet my expectations and if you meet my needs. And she makes the decision, no, you don't, he does, or you just don't, period. I'm wondering, man, is that really the proper way to date? And not to give too much personal stuff out there, but I've gone through a couple of health scares, and it impacted me.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I went, I got through it, but it impacted me. And so I wasn't the same guy she started dating in the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a different guy. So expectations and, is different. In the beginning of the relationship, I was doing very badly financially. She stood by me. But as I got better financially, there was a slight change there. I don't think it was for the worse. I think it was for the better, because I started saying, well, yeah, let's do this. I got it covered. Or yeah, let's do this. I don't need your money. I can do this. You know, I can handle this on my own. So I guess that's a long way of saying, you know, are we dating properly? Do we need to sort of be like, well, let's see if you meet my needs and expectations. If you do, we'll get married. And if you don't, we'll break up. Is that the right way? Is it the wrong way? I don't know. Go ahead and handle that, brother.
The current popular secular idea is just wrong. Okay, the current popular secular idea is run around, fornicate, figure it out along the way. You know, and if you like living together, hey, live together, whatever. But that don't mean we're committed. You know, have kids. That don't mean we're committed. You know, it's just terrible. Okay, I think that on one hand, I don't want to be a perfectionist. We all have different backgrounds, and God knows that, and so He can deal with sin. He can forgive us. He can change us. So, you know, if you didn't have it perfectly raised or perfectly done or bred or whatever, don't worry about that. Okay. Just the simple rules I would say is, number one, if she's not a Christian, don't even think about it. All right. It's really not worth it. And even if she's the fantasy girl, okay, I've had my experience with fantasy girls too. All right. But even at the end of the day, they can wink and they can flirt and all that kind of stuff. But it's like that Meatloaf song. I need you. I want you, but I don't really love you. Okay. And that's just another breakup or another heartache and all that kind of stuff waiting to happen. So you find a girl who's a believer, you know, and a respectable believer. And if you respect her, she's a respectable believer. Not if you're obsessed, but I mean, if you respect her. The second thing is that friends, okay, that's what you really need to know. You need to know, is this my friend? And, you know, if everything falls apart, if our health goes away, if, you know, all the sex stuff is gone, if all the money's gone, is she still my friend? Okay. You figure most of those things out through friendship. Okay. So that's the next thing. Then you also start to deal with family. Okay. Even if you don't like your family, all right, your family is a part of you, and her family is a part of her. And so keeping the relationship kosher means being able to get along with the family. And I do believe even if she doesn't like her family, still try to be friends with the family. Okay. Because you are now engaging in a community, you're becoming part of a tribe. And so that means a whole lot, especially because we got to think again, heritage. What about the kids? You know, I have, like, to be honest with you, I have step grandkids. I have step children who are not children. You know, they're full adults married and with their children. But at the same time, I need to be A, at peace with them, and B, try to get along and try to provide for them, you know. And so I try, you know, I'm not going to say I'm perfect or anything like that, but, you know, that is something on my mind, that I want to be there for them. I want to, you know, step in, you know, basically, because the genetic guy decided to leave long ago. But nevertheless, you know, this is what you need. You need to be able to have those senses of bonding and stuff. And also, you know, once again, the chastity. Okay. So if you get those four things together, then I think that you can establish that relationship. Sometimes it's tricky. I mean, sometimes there are people that go to church and you thought they were Christian or whatever, you know, but generally that's why, you know, do a lot of talking, you know, really kind of get to know somebody, you know, have those, you know, instead of like saying, hey baby, let's, you know, go all night, you know, hey, let's go on the phone all night, you know, let's just get to know each other and know our ways and all that kind of stuff. And really, you know, you have to be able to have a miracle happen. Okay. Especially if you're a young man, because this mostly happens with young men. You know, sex is going to be on the brain, you know. You got to have a miracle happen. You got to clear up your mind and really think these things out. But one thing you also brought up is the fact that marriage is not just about the, paradise island. Okay. Marriage is about, when you grow old and you need to survive. And I know that's an issue. There's a lot of people out there that thought, hey, and there's probably more women than men. They thought, hey,
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'll get by. I'm good on my own. I've seen a lot of women so wounded and damaged and broken in their lives because they didn't have that long-term relationship. They don't have a man around. And then all of a sudden, what happens when cancer comes? What happens when all these things hit? And he thought, oh, no, I'm a working woman and I'll go work at the warehouse. And all of a sudden their fingers break and the ribs break and then everything falls apart.
Yeah.
And I've seen this happen. And that's the thing, God's plan for us is kind of the best way. It's not the only thing. Don't freak out if you say, oh, I didn't make it, or oh, I didn't do this, but it is simply, if you can, and if you have that opportunity in life, then yeah, go for it.
Great. Brother, I'm going to have to stop us there. We've run over time a little bit, but hey, I mean, we got to get the wisdom. If that's how long it takes to get the wisdom, that's how long it takes. So, I'm good with it. And like I say, whenever I'm sort of struggling with, issues that are not quote unquote political or cultural, I always like to go to someone who can address the issue from a biblical standpoint. And
I'm very honored.
And I just want to encourage all believers, all my listeners who are believers, take that to heart. And again, this is Book Talk with Corbin. I'm your host. Go to my website, booktalkwithcorbin.com, and my YouTube channel. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit that like, folks. It helps. I'm trying to monetize these channels so I can keep doing that, so I can keep doing what I need to do to reach out to brothers like Brother Matt. Brother, thank you so much. I will be in touch.